Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblatt.com, live in my natural habitat of New Jersey, here at what is now called Jersey Mike's Arena, following Purdue's 70-68, shocking 70-68 loss to Rutgers. This is your wrap video. It's brought to you by our friends at the Purdue Club Hotel and the 811 restaurant, and the guy with the leaf blower blowing popcorn around right now. I apologize. I hope you can hear me. I can't wait him out. I got to go. There we go. So, obviously, Purdue is stunned. Its reign as the number one team in college basketball was extremely short-lived, and a number of stark reminders were delivered. One, stuff changes in Big Ten play. Two, stuff changes on the road. And three, stuff tends to change when you're number one in the country and people are really excited to play you and all of this stuff. And I've heard Matt Painter say a few times over the many years I've been around here, screw around and get beat. And the word he uses is not screw. And I think that, that's got to be one of the big lessons, Purdue takes from this, is that obviously, you need to give some credit to Rutgers for having an outlier shooting game, although this hasn't been all that uncommon against Purdue over the years. Rutgers did this very same thing last year, shot way over its head. But you have to give Rutgers credit, all the requisite credit here, but you also have to call a spade here and understand that, Purdue wasn't very good, certainly by its past standards. I think Purdue is a really good team. This doesn't really change my opinion on that. It shouldn't really change anyone's opinion on that, I don't think. Although, obviously, Purdue will not be the number one team in the country anymore come Monday. That is the last thing that matters right now. The biggest thing that matters right now is the fact that Purdue is 1-1 in the Big Ten. And it just gave ground in the Big Ten race with a bad loss on the road before the Big Ten season has even really commenced. So that's the real sting in all of this for Purdue from a big picture perspective. But Purdue has been showing some vulnerability here lately. The Iowa game, the last 10 minutes, probably portions of the first half and whatnot, weren't all that machine-like Purdue's prior standard was. They were so good to start the season, so good in Connecticut. But Purdue has been showing some real vulnerabilities here. And if those vulnerabilities were subsisted, if they sustained and Purdue finally shot the ball poorly, or the opponent, played a game way over its head, this was bound to happen. Purdue is simply too casual with the basketball. I've been talking about this over and over again as a potential red flag here the last couple weeks. They turn the ball over too much. They fritter away too many possessions. Their shot selection tonight wasn't great. I don't know if any of this had to do with, playing on the road for the first time for a lot of these guys. It would seem like there might be some causation there. When I see a player like Brandon Newman go 1 for 6 from the floor, turn the ball over 3 times at 18 in only 13 minutes, that's kind of an eye-opener. I just didn't think Purdue had the poise offensively it needed in this game. It didn't value possessions the way it needs to value possessions. As I've said over and over again, like a Teddy Ruxpin with the button stuck. Purdue is too good an offensive team to fritter away possessions and not a good enough defensive team to overcome helping the opponents with their own miscues by compromising their defense with turnovers or bad shots, one or the other. And Purdue finally paid for it tonight. Purdue's rock-solid shooting all season long finally bottomed out for one game anyway. They were 7 of 26 in three-point range. A lot of teams would be like, that's okay. That's not that bad. 27% is bad, but 27% is what Rutgers was shooting coming into this game, which was bad. So I'm talking in circles here. But Purdue didn't shoot the 40+% it normally shoots. Purdue Its attention to detail, its care for possessions was not where it needed to be. Its attention to detail was not where it needed to be. You have got to block out Ron Harper on free throws. That was a cardinal sin. And, for as good as Travion Williams has been all year long for Purdue, as great a player as he's been for Purdue, the one thing that's really an oddity about him is that he's a spectacular rebounder who doesn't box out as consistently and as tenaciously as he probably ought to. He just goes and gets the ball, which is a very unique talent. But there were two situations where Purdue had to get a body on Ron Harper Jr. Maybe it did. I'll have to go back and watch, and he just went over it. I don't know, but he got those offensive rebounds over Purdue, and those were huge plays in this game. Those led to 4 points, and look, you lost at the buzzer. So every single point counted. Purdue has got to get better defensively as well. Obviously, we've been talking about this all season long, and it was never anywhere near a finished product, so I'm not just bringing this up after a loss. I've been saying over and over again, even in winning, Purdue has looked like a team that was outscoring people more than it was, playing both ends of the floor at an equally or even comparable level. Purdue's got to keep getting better there. And I'm not just saying that because Ron Harper went for 30. I thought Ron Harper was obviously the difference in this game. He was a matchup problem no matter where he played, who played against him, who was guarding him. And, one thing Painter always says about matchups like that is that your matchups, I might be paraphrasing here, I might be distorting this, but your matchup advantages have to exceed theirs. That might just be a single personnel related matter and not just a team-wide thing, but Purdue had no answer for Ron Harper, and I don't know how they would have taken advantage of him at the other end, but when they're playing small at the 4, you're playing big. Caleb Furst's not really that guy who's going to go take a 260-pounder into the low post and squeeze that orange, so to speak, but Purdue just didn't have the same difference-making matchup that Rutgers did. Rutgers had Harper playing on the perimeter in the first half against Furst. He made a bunch of threes. That wasn't just on Furst, that was on everybody. But I said before the game, having a 6'10" traditional power forward chasing him through screens was going to be a challenging matchup and a real interesting dynamic for this game. They put Ethan Morton on him to have more of a guard guarding him on the perimeter. Harper simply in the second half started to take Morton down into the low post, made a bunch of really, really high-level shots, and Purdue just never had an answer for that matchup. But it wasn't just Harper. Purdue gave up way too much at the rim and just didn't play a great game defensively. This was Rutgers. Now, granted, Rutgers, everybody has good games and bad games, but Rutgers was one of the worst shooting teams in college basketball coming into tonight, and I don't think anybody foresaw them against Purdue, shorthanded, coming off a supposed bout with the flu team-wide, coming in here and shooting 52% against the number one team in the country. So credit to Rutgers, but you can't tell me Purdue didn't have a say in that. I think Purdue's poise, for as good as they were in Connecticut, closing out those North Carolina and Villanova games, they just didn't get good possessions at the end of this game, and I don't know why that was. The shot clock violation was an eyesore that I completely forgot about. And then the offensive foul on Travion Williams, I have no idea what happened there because I couldn't see him because there were 4 Rutgers players around him. And then the traveling on Jaden Ivey, which basically gifted them the ball back after Rutgers threw the ball straight out of bounds when Ron Harper thought his guy was zigging when he was really zagging. So you let Rutgers off the hook for that. They made you pay. You came back. You made a great basketball play to get the almost was game winner from Travion Williams. And then crazy happened, and Matt Painter couldn't have put it any better when he talked about what Gene Cady used to say about how if you let games that you should win and you should have closed out by the time winning time happens and something crazy happens, you have no one to blame but yourself. I'm definitely paraphrasing that because he didn't say it that way. So don't think I'm misquoting him. I'm paraphrasing that there. It shouldn't have come down to that last shot by Ron Harper. It just shouldn't have. Purdue should have taken better care of the basketball. Purdue should have gotten a few more stops. And Purdue from this, and I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know if Purdue needed to be humbled, but this ought to do the trick. I just think, one of the things I said when Purdue was winning early in the season was one worry you might have is that scoring would come so easily to them that some of the little details would get glanced over, possessions would get glanced over. It'd be like an NBA kind of thing where if you turn the ball over, you still have 80 more possessions the rest of the game. It's not that huge a deal. Maybe some overconfidence would set in that you could just outscore everyone, and the defensive end was kind of a little bit of a side priority. I don't know if any of that stuff happened or not, but I'm just saying maybe this had to happen for some of these things to really, really get zeroed in on, because the turnover issue has been an issue for several games now, and I feel like I'm talking about a team that was just the number one team in the country like they're a complete lost cause. I think it's important to say right now Purdue lost a game it shouldn't have lost, but I don't think they're any worse a team now than they were this morning. They just lost a game they should have lost. It happens. It happens to everybody. And I think that Purdue has had a significant threshold, even while it was rolling, to get better. And I think this is the sort of thing that if it doesn't hasten that process along, maybe you'll find out all you need to know about Purdue, and perhaps they're not quite up to the sort of season that you thought they were going to have all along here. So Purdue's got to get better from this, clearly, but Purdue needed to get better from winning. And this, still happened. It does happen. It's not the end of the world. Wisconsin came here many years ago as the number one team in the country. They got beat. I believe they were okay. I think Frank Kaminsky might have missed that game with a concussion, so apples and oranges. Don't call me out on Twitter later. Full disclosure. Anyway, that's what I got from Purdue's 70-68 loss here at Rutgers. This is Brian Neubert from goldenblack.com, live in Jersey Mike's Arena, the most delicious arena in all of college basketball. So thank you, everybody. Once again, thank you to the Purdue Union Club Hotel and the 811 Restaurant for your partnership. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys again on Sunday from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, if I can find somewhere to do this video with all the other games going on after Purdue plays NC State. Thanks, everybody.